Hi, my name is John Twigg, and thanks for tuning in to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. This is the first show of a new season, and frankly, we've already got some great guests lined up. And the one today might be the best of the whole year, I don't know. But Neil Cameron, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, John.
Now, in case you don't know, Neil is the managing editor of the Campbell River Courier Islander. But he's been in town for quite a while. He just told me before we went on air from about 1988. He came here to work on the Courier and he liked it and stayed. But recently he's published a book, Fishing, Family and Friends. And here's the cover. That's his daughter on the cover from when she was about 7 till when she was about 17. And there's lots of great stories in it. It's really funny. And Neil, thanks for coming in.
No problem at all, John.
Good. Well, you came here after being with Thompson newspapers, working around. You decided you wanted to stay. Why did you stay?
Well, I took a look around. It was quite astonishing, the beauty of this town and everything. And like I was saying before, one of the most endearing things was that the rivers don't freeze.
Yeah.
And I came from Saskatchewan before that, in Ontario, and loved fishing. And all of a sudden, all these wonderful rivers, you could fish them anytime.
Yeah.
And they had wonderful fish in them, winter steelhead.
Yeah. So when you were here first for the Courier, what was your role?
I came as managing editor at the time. And after about 4 years or 5 years, I think, they made me publisher. And then about 5 years after that, they made me publisher and editor, which was somewhat untenable. And most recently, I'm just doing the editing job now,
Yeah.
which is fun.
When did the Islander come in?
At one time, Bickle, E.W. Bickle, had what was called the Courier, which came out on Thursday, and the Islander, which came out on Tuesday. And it was designed to keep a competitor out of the marketplace. So when Thompson bought it, we combined them and called them the Courier Islander on both days.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I asked him to come on and do a show, I've been trying to get him on for years. And when I said we could talk about your book, there was a line I wrote in the review on CRNV which said, he took off like a 20-pound steelhead. And the review that I wrote reran in the Courier a few days later. But that line was left out. And it was left out for editing reasons, or it was because you've never, as you told me before, you've never caught a 20-pound steelhead?
Well, you know, I thought it was a great description.
Yeah.
I edited it the first time, and it was edited again with some pictures put in, so I think it might have been space.
Just for space, yeah. But you've done a lot of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you do some hunting?
No, I'm afraid of guns, and all my friends who hunt say, "Well, then don't hunt, don't do it." So, but I've gone with some of my friends, like Kenny Ann's, going to spot elk when they got a lucky draw, and I love being out there, but there's a lot of work in dressing those animals.
Yeah.
Once you do shoot them, so I kind of shy away from that.
Yeah. How did you get into writing columns about fishing?
Well, when I came here, we had a wonderful, wonderful writer, two of them actually. One was Arthur Mays.
Oh, yes.
And the other was Rob Bell Irving.
I grew up next door to him in West Van.
Yes, a wonderful guy, and eventually Art passed away, and we like to have a local column in there. And while we had Rob, we didn't have anything else, so it was incumbent upon me to write a column. So since most of what I was doing was fishing, they ended up being on fishing.
Yeah, yeah. There's a plaid series, hilarious Cameron's plaid series. What was that?
Well, that's what I called the column after a while. It was called Cameron's Plaid, and there was a whole segment there, a couple that were well, I think we're well received within the community. So there's about probably 3 or 4 of them in there.
Yeah, but so the fishing column and the plaid column are the same thing?
Yeah, they were the same thing,
Yeah,
just different subjects.
yeah. And you've been doing this, the ads say, for 25 years. How did you pick out the ones that, yeah, and also I noticed in here too that there's some stories in this book that have never been in the paper.
Yeah, it was a very laborious process.
Yeah.
Especially since that a lot of the ones I wrote earlier in my career weren't on electronics.
Yes.
So, and of course, I've had a couple of people say, well, I bought your book and I'm disappointed you didn't have this one in there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty tough process, but there's a whole bunch there that just didn't make it. And some I had, some I didn't.
Yeah.
So.
You know, I want to do this Adipose Huxley thing. This story is not in the book, but he just told me. Tell us the Adipose Huxley story.
Well, I was doing freelance column writing for various magazines, and for the one was the Island Fisherman, and I called myself Dr. Adipose Huxley.
Adipose being a fin on a fish.
It's the one that indicates whether it's wild or hatchery. So it was a play on words, and of course Aldous Huxley, and because it was pretty weird writing sometimes, but I went into the Legion one time to have a beer, and my friend Bernie came in, and he had a copy of the magazine. And he was always reading my columns in the paper, so he sat there and he said, listen, I don't want you to get offended, but you got to read this guy's stuff, because it's really good. Yeah. You can be there. You can get as good as this guy, but you got to, have you read him? It's Adipose Huxley. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's me. And he got all mad because he didn't believe me. Yeah. He says, I'd like to believe you, but this guy's much better than what you write. So it was hilarious. Yeah. And he chuckled about it. I think it was 2 days later when I finally convinced him, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Did it start out as humor, or did it evolve into humor?
I always wanted to have the humorous side into it because, you know, you get, for one thing, I'm not intelligent enough to give the deep thought process.
I don't know about that.
So I thought if you can give somebody a laugh every now and then, aside from the regular news, then you've done something right. But as you know, writing humor is very difficult because you can fall flat in your face pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't even try. Occasionally I'll put a line in that's got a little wordplay or something, but no, I'm a pretty serious guy. That's why I never laugh on this show either. I guess, well, do you have a favorite story?
You know, I get asked that. I think my favorite story was with my daughter at the Haig Brown house. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. But something went on that day where the trees were rustling, and I had been talking about Rod Haig Brown and his wife Ann, and how she helped women who were in stress, and that she didn't get as much credit perhaps as Rod, and it was all just really nice. We're just having sandwiches, and she's saying, there he is, and trees were blowing, and and he's over in the bush. Well, you've read the story, but that's my favorite one.
I had a rustling tree experience once in Saanich too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was a different, I had a cat come around the veranda and looking scared, and the cat didn't particularly like me. I'm allergic to them. But I went around to look, and there was the rustling tree. It was, there are spirits. I think one of the best stories is the Love, Love, Love spoon, and we've got it there, if you hold it up.
We do.
Now, I'll just shorten it, because time is precious here. His daughter wrote on this spoon, love, 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 and it caught lots of fish, and you lost it, but it kept coming back. I think, is that the same spoon?
This is actually second generation.
Okay.
The first one stayed around through various mishaps, and then this one was next, and I had her this time. I asked her. The first time I was mad. So when I got my new white spoon, I asked her to do it, and so she did.
Well, she wrote on it, and then it started catching more fish. Is that right?
Actually, she wrote on it, and it started catching fish. Period.
Right.
but I wouldn't say a lot of fish.
Okay.
I'm not that great a fisherman, but this one just seems to be able to hit fish pretty well.
Yeah. And she did a few of those, and then you asked her to stop.
She wanted to surprise me one day, so I had another 4 Gibbs white spoons, which I don't think they make anymore.
Yeah.
Or they don't carry them locally. Yeah. But anyway, I came home and they were out of the package and they were written on. And I said, oh, well, perfect.
I think my favorite story is the Gold River gold spoons.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't believe it because it was quite stupid. But I fished with a Gibbs ironhead. And it's
back then they were about $12 a piece?
8.
8 back then?
Yeah, and I think they're still about 8.
Okay.
But I fished with them, and sometimes I would fish half a winter with the same spoon. And when I went with my friend Brent that day, it just started. First cast, lost the spoon, and he's laughing. And second, get going and lose another one. And after about the 4th pool we were on, I was out of spoons, and I had 11 of them.
Yeah.
So it was an expensive lesson.
Yeah. And then somebody teased you and said that's why they named it the Gold River?
That was Brent who was with me.
Yeah. One of the things about the humor in the book is that it's often at Neil's own expense. And, you know, as a writer, I admire that.
Well, it's amazing. I think one of the reasons I love fishing so much is because those things happen. And the one thing when I see people writing about fishing are the ones who say, do it this way, and their whole story is about the perfect catch, the biggest fish.
It's all very serious, big bucks.
It's all very serious, and I know they probably have the same kind of stories I have, but maybe they just don't want to share.
Yeah. Another thing I like about the book is some insights into the Tyee pool. Even though I've been in Campbell River virtually all my life, not full time, but every summer, I have never done the Tyee club thing. Marjorie and I went down and taped a show there with Jeremy Maynard one time, so I know what it is. But like it has unique etiquette. It's quite an institution.
I don't think there's any fishing like it in the world.
Yeah.
The rules basically haven't changed.
Yeah.
The camaraderie hasn't changed.
And one of the city's top realtors goes out and rows boats for people.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, you know, people always ask, so let me get this right. You take people out, you row them, they hold the rod. When they catch a fish, they get to play the fish.
Yeah.
You net it for them, and then they keep the fish, but all you do is get to row.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah. And they go, are you nuts?
Yeah. Well, let's tell us about this rod here. And you can hold it up for your camera. Yeah,
when you talk about the Tyee pool, of course, the author of the book on it was Van Egan. And Van had this specially made, and it's called a 3/6 rod, which it was a part of a category in the Tyee Club. And tell me if I'm not holding that right.
You're doing fine.
And anyway, it had to be no more than 6 feet, no heavier than 6 ounces, and the line had to be 6 strands of gut, which at that time would have been about 3-pound test each, so about 18-pound test, which is close to the Tyee Club rules now.
And then to call it a Tyee, it's got to be over 30?
It's got to be 30 pounds or over. Now the way this worked, so this is under 6 ounces, but of course, you don't weigh it with the rod holder on it, or the reel holder. So I don't know if there not very many people have seen this. I know I've got 3 or 4 friends who have fished with it, and they're just shaking, hoping that the fish isn't too big.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll fish it again. But,
well, you told me before we went on air that, or on recording, that Van gave it to you with a condition.
Yes. He said, I want you to have this, but if you're going to put it on a wall or you're going to frame it or whatever, then you can't have it. I want you to have it to fish with it because I didn't get it custom made and spend all that money on it for it to be a artifact.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Is there something that you think we should know about the book or about fishing? Or I got some questions, but
yeah, no,
when you were thinking about coming here, was you thinking, well, maybe we'll talk about this or that?
no, I was worried what you're going to talk about.
Business. Is there any news happening in the newspaper right now? I promised not to ask him that. He
I
doesn't
have no idea.
Okay. Well, how's the book selling? And actually, it's published by the newspaper too, and it's only for sale at the newspaper.
At the newspaper.
Yeah.
Now, I think that might change. We had a lot of people who wanted to get the book, but I can see why the company wanted to sell it out of the office, but at the same time, we're only open 8:30 to 5. And there were people that just actually couldn't get to our office.
Yeah.
And some people didn't know where our office was. But so there were phone calls about, can you bring a book home and I'll drive by your house and I'll give you the money there, which ended up costing me a few beer at the same time. So. Yeah,
and $29.95, is that the price?
Yeah, $29. I think it's $31 with taxes in.
Yeah, that's a little steep. It's a soft cover. There's no color photos except on the cover.
Yeah,
and
but
no index.
Yeah, but it's so wonderfully written.
It is wonderfully written. Well, I think for somebody who wants to know kind of like the ethics and the history of fishing in Campbell River, it's a good read for entertainment, but I think it also gives some pretty good insights into the culture.
Well, I was very blessed with the people in this town, the fishermen especially, who would take you under your wing. Van Egan, Jeremy Maynard, I caught my tie first time out with Jeremy.
He was rowing?
He was rowing.
Oh, nice.
And then there was Rob Bellerving, and there was Ed Schmoulin and Rick Schmidt, Randy Kaloran. But all that underlying thing about, they just didn't teach me how to fish or try to teach me how to fish, because I don't know if it ever really sunk in, but there's a moral to the morals to fishing in Campbell River, and being an angler in Campbell River. There's more to it than just catching fish.
Yeah.
There's an appreciation of the resource, and there's a dedication to keep trying to improve those resources.
Yeah. One of the stories I thought, the poignant is another word that I've used, but you were up island at a river. I'm not sure which one it was, the Sayward area, I think. But anyway, you were the first one on the river, and a few minutes later, another carload of Campbell Riverites showed up, and they were obviously going to fish, but they saw you were there first, and they moved on to another river.
Yeah, that was especially nice. The one fellow for sure, I remember, it was Robbie Rowden, and I think he knew I had a bad knee because I just had it replaced about a year after that. But there's quite a hike down there, and once you get on that river, especially with 4 guys, there's really no sense in anybody else going.
It's not a big river.
And he just came over and he said, "Have you started, or did you just finish?" And I said, "Well, we were going to start." And he was geared up, and his friends were too. And he said, "Well, back in the truck, boys, we'll go to another spot." And my friend Brent was there, and he goes, "Wow." Yeah. And I said, "Well, I think that's what makes Campbell River special."
Yeah. Another, well, I think there's more than one story, but you and a bunch of friends tend to go out kind of on a 2-night camping thing?
Yeah, it's an annual trip, and it's not easy to get there. It's 2 hours by boat to the start of the mouth of the river, and then you go upriver on the right tide, and you camp, and there's nobody out there. There's no cell phones. There's no contact.
But there are cougars.
There are cougars. there are grizzly bears.
Grizzlies?
Yeah, because it's not on the island, and but there are lovely, lovely fish.
I didn't get it that it's over on the mainland then.
Well, I probably tried to hide it.
Oh, okay. Nobody's watching, so it's all right. But if you go out fishing, you don't put the line in for 12 hours straight. No. There's various other
things that you do out there.
Yeah.
Mostly is nap in the afternoon.
Yeah. Because it's hard to sleep in a tent at night. It's rocky ground. You ever been attacked by a cougar or a bear?
No. I've had close encounters, and it's wonderful. I remember Van Egan telling me, who fished a lot on the Dean up there, and he believed that he stood a better chance if he didn't have a gun with him. That he had this feeling that the bear knew that he didn't
Wasn't a threat. And he never had a problem with him. And I've never really had a problem with him. I've come close, and it's disconcerting, but I always think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, because I think when you're out there, and I fish so many rivers, that if somebody had like a trigger mechanism that could say, okay, while you were walking here, there was a cougar here, and I know they're there, but you can't see them, they'll never see them. You really think a cougar can sneak up on a deer. Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too hard for it to sneak up on a person.
Well, I had a sixth sense once. I was walking the West Coast Trail, and the group had broken up, and I was no problem, but I was walking along by myself, and I felt something watching me at the back. And and you've had a similar thing, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's, some of the loggers used to have paint eyes in the back of their helmets. The one thing you don't want to do is break eye contact with them. Now, I've never had to do that, but I found that kind of fascinating.
Time is, well, we got a bit of time, but a couple of places I want to go. One is your daughter. She wrote some of the stories in here, I think.
Yeah, she there was two stories particularly that she wrote for school, and when I was going through all the stuff I had, which was going to go in, and I was reading this one part, and I went, geez, when did I get so poetic? And I read, and I went, oh, that's Neela's. So I copied it and I put it in, and then I asked Neela, I said, do you mind if I put that in my book? And she said, yeah, I know you've got it in there, I saw it. So she was peeking at what I was doing. But I think that was just part of her and my relationship.
Yeah. Is she going to be a professional writer? Well, she's 19 now, or I think.
Yeah, she's 19. I think she can be just about whatever she wants. I think that's the whole key with young people. I think she's interested in anthropology now.
Oh, good.
She's going to North Island College, and she's interested in acting, and she teaches at the gymnastics club. So she's pretty well rounded.
Yeah, good. The future of the fishing industry, and the commercial industry is kind of like part of it, but and also the recreational fishery. And I saw you did a thing recently, I think, about the salmon signs in town that need to be fixed. What is your perspective on the future of the salmon capital of the world?
Well, I think because where we're situated, and most of our fishing is from salmon that are from other places. I mean, you think of the salmon that come out of the Campbell, I think it's like 70-80% of them are caught up north in Alaska. So I think it's in relatively good hands on a local managerial level. I think where we've really got to wrest control from DFO and from decisions being made in Ottawa.
That's interesting. I'd like the BC government to take over jurisdiction for inshore waterways and stuff like that too. Is the tourism thing waning, or do you think we're still? I mean, like we used to have John Wayne up here in the summer. He doesn't come anymore. Well, of course he's not alive, but you got a story in here about Eric Clapton coming. That was a long time ago too. So is it going downhill?
I think maybe as an exotic getaway, that's probably what Campbell River was back then. That was part of the allure. But the fishing actually has been really good, and
Yeah.
especially last season,
Yeah.
and especially with the retention of one coho. I mean, it was a game changer. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, people like to come and they like to keep what they catch.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just going to come and release these coho. So now they come and they can have a chance to actually keep something.
Yeah.
That made a big difference. And I think because we have such a wide variety of fishing methodologies and fishing areas in Campbell River, that it can only get better. And it's a matter of perhaps if we ever got our tourism promotion going the way it should. Remember, we went a long way ago before we had the kayakers. That's where we started. We went off of those
Yeah.
after those people to attract those
Yeah.
people who were going to go in and buy a bag of nuts and a bottle of water, and they were going out for 6 days by themselves.
Yeah.
And that was where we were spending our marketing money on.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of it's a broad-based saying,
Yeah.
but we really did stop promoting ourselves as a fishing destination.
Yeah. We're just about out, but I think, and everybody agrees, Hydro has done a brilliant job of managing the water for the salmon in recent years, but not so much long ago. But then we had this big rainstorm, 5 days record inflow. And is that going to wash away some of the salmon eggs?
Oh, definitely. I think there was some damage that was done, but I think Mother Nature's remarkably resilient, and we've had washouts before after good returns, and it seems it didn't do that much damage.
Yeah.
But this time it was pretty. The Quinsam was way up here, and the Campbell was way up here. So, thankfully, a lot of the spawning for the system isn't done in the Campbell. So.
Yeah.
But then again, the Quinsam, it's pretty brown.
Yeah, right. Is there something I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think I've got everything. So here it is. Fishing Family and Friends by Neil Cameron. It's $29.95. The only place you can get it right now is at the Courier Islander office, which is across from the community center here in Campbell River. But it might make it into bookstores this year too, so who knows. But Neil, thank you very much for coming in. Congratulations on writing a good book.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, not many people get to write a good book. So thank you, crew. Thank you, Shaw. Thank you, volunteers. And Chaz, thank you too. Nice to have you back for a new season. And Gord and Marjorie and all that. So stay tuned. Talk About is, we've got guests lined up. Actually, Steve Watson is coming in later this month as well too. So thanks again, and see you soon.